Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we sit down with real operators, real founders, and real builders shaping the future of real estate. Today, I'm joined by someone whose work is becoming quite a backbone in the industry, Aden Nurie, CEO and co-founder of ChatARV. So, if you're a wholesaler or a flipper or an investor anywhere in the US, chances are that you would have heard someone mention ChatARV in the past 12 months. They help hundreds of operators comp properties faster, underwrite deals cleaner, and also eliminate hours of manual due diligence every single week. Aiden, welcome to the show, man. For those who might not know the full story yet, can you give us a quick background of who you are and what Chat ARV is all about?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dion. My name's Aiden. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ChatARV. We started in around May of this year. Before ChatARV, I was working on a few other tech startups, and I was wholesaling some deals as well. So I did around 10 deals before trying to solve this problem for us.
Amazing, amazing. So I think let's just start there, right? A lot of founders in this space, they come across wholesaling, flipping, and even the deep real estate backgrounds. But your approach with ChatARV feels extremely tech first and also operator focused, like almost like you build a tool with the industry rather than just for the industry. So can you maybe walk us a little bit more about the idea, or let's say the foundation of where it all started?
Yeah. So my first company ever was a website where people could create and join pickup soccer games easily. This came from a personal problem of mine. I had a really hard time organizing pickup soccer games in the city that I then lived in called it was in Tampa. So I was thinking, it would be easier if we could organize this better. Let me just make a website where we could create a link, send the link to people, and then they could join. And I scaled that to well over 60,000 users within like the first few weeks of launch. So after building that website, I then realized that I could probably solve other problems in the future. I started wholesaling, and underwriting was annoying. So I called one of my friends, asked him if he could try to build this solution with me to finding comps faster. And the pipeline, lead, comps, and then your offer, your wholesale offer, which like the simplest of those offers is just the ARV times 70% minus repairs, assignment fee, etc. We just show it very quickly. So you're right. It is very built by wholesalers for wholesalers focused.
Nice. And it seems like you've been building things since the very beginning, right? So it seems like you always had this entrepreneurial mindset from the very get-go. Is it something which you inherited or is something which you worked on from the very beginning of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I inherited it from my dad. He's in real estate. He's been grinding since he was my age as well. But at 12 years old, I was buying and selling Nintendo Switches and
Wow.
PS4s. I saved up $500, bought like a PC where I then mined Ethereum, and then I made a few thousand from that. I bought half of an Ethereum that went up to 4,000. Bought more GPUs to start mining, and that was like my first taste of entrepreneurship with crypto. But afterwards, I taught myself how to code, started making websites for local businesses, which then led on to the software company, then wholesaling.
Amazing, man. Amazing. I think you have a very similar story to Mark Cuban because he also started what you call like hustling and all of these things, selling newspapers and stuff from the very beginning. Then he created his own company. So you also have something similar going on, man. Amazing to hear all this. So let's go back a little bit back into ChatARV. So I know you've seen what like over 600 of investors use ChatARV across all kinds of market, right? Like high volume wholesalers, mom and pop flippers, hedge funds, you name it. So from your vantage point, what would you say is the biggest insight you've learned about how investors actually make decisions? Are there any particular patterns you're seeing behind the scenes?
Yeah. So, after seeing people run 80,000 comps on our system, we saw a lot of repeated patterns, and we've been able to collect some data. We noticed, those who get their lead, underwrite it, figure out its worth. On ARV alone, some people can discriminate on whether or not it'll be a deal for them. But whoever moves the fastest generally does the most volume. There's people that are stuck on one dealitis that'll be analyzing the same property for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that really kills them. So I think the biggest thing that I've noticed to date has been those who are moving incredibly fast.
Nice. And what would you say would slow down the average operators based
Uh,
on what you've seen?
I think even whenever people do see what the ARV is and estimate the repair costs or whatever, that's one really important part. Whenever we're estimating repair costs from a wholesaler's perspective, it's always a guess until you walk the property. And
Mhm.
we'll get an email. So someone will have a lead, they'll input it into the system, they'll see its ARV, they're at their offer, and they'll email us and say, hey, these repairs are off. can you fix this? Or what do you think? And if it takes us like 10, 15, 20 minutes to reply to an email, you could have made an offer on that property and five more in that time frame. So I think getting stuck on little things like the repair cost estimate being maybe 25K instead of either 30 or 15K, whatever you think it might be. I think you should always probably estimate high so that your buyer could have the most amount of cost savings.
Nice. Have you noticed any manual steps that people keep doing, but they never realize that these are actually killing deals? Like, let's say when it comes to, before the chat ARV came into the picture, like, have you noticed what exactly the manual steps that people keep doing, which are actually, at the end of the day, these are things which, if they have not done it that way, they might have gotten the deal. Is there anything like that which you want to share?
I'd say underwriting in general. So whenever you go on PropStream or Zillow and you see a list of 30 properties that sold in the last 12 months that are like at least a mile out from your subject property, it makes it very difficult for you to figure out what the ARV is on your property quickly because most of those properties will not be the same bed and bath count as your subject. The range in which they're selling for will be between 150,000 and 600,000, and that slows down the time in which we can make offers. So with ChatARV, we just accelerate that. You throw in the address, and instead of you looking through 30 properties, ChatARV filters those down to the top six, and then it's all that's left for you to do is to actually verbally make the offer to the seller.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about what operators think they need and what they actually need. I know this is something we talk about all the time behind the scenes. Like investors, they think their bottleneck is one thing, but in reality, the bottleneck is somewhere else entirely. So, from all the client conversations, or let's say the customers you've had, what do operators think that their problem is, and what is the real problem under the hood? Can you maybe share a little bit of insight on that, Aiden?
Yeah, I think a very common thing is just people thinking that they have a lack of leads whenever it's a lack of offers being made, which the only bottleneck in that process is just how fast you can value those properties. I remember very very specific use cases, Dion. There was a guy who he paid for pay per lead, so he had like 40 leads that he paid 1,000 something bucks for, so they were cheaper. But he said, "Dude, I need more leads. I'm not getting any of these under contract." And I said, "What are the ARVs for these deals?" And he said, "I haven't underwritten them yet." And I said, "Have you even made an offer on these deals?" And he's like, "No, I haven't made an offer either." So I was really confused. I didn't know what exactly he needed more leads for, but I feel like just making offers as fast as possible whenever those leads do come in and hit your inbox. I think you'll have deals under contract and you won't be complaining about leads.
I think a lot of people they have a misconception on right. Like a problem might be something which they think is in their mind, but in reality is a totally different thing. Now, I think one of the best things about I feel like about ChatARV is it solved the entire comping process, right? Like in the previous, let's say old comping workflow, it would be like you open Zillow, you pull the MLS, you run the numbers manually, and hope that you got the right thing. But nowadays, investors are leaning more into AI assisted underwriting, and I feel like ChatARV is at the center of everything right now. So, from your perspective, what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about using AI for comping?
ChatGPT can do it. I see probably hundreds of comments on the Instagram posts. If people are, considering canceling ChatARV, they ask, "Hey, can't GPT just do the same thing?" And that could not be further from the truth. Whenever you prompt GPT with anything, whether it's finance related, health related, anything that requires some form of real data,
Yeah.
ChatGPT is just getting the exact same thing you'd get if you just search Google. Just pulling links, probably going within the link itself and just reading the contents and giving you an output. And it is definitely not looking through, 30 plus properties on Zillow, filtering for properties that sold and going within 12 months. It's just looking at whatever ranks as sold properties in Tampa, Florida, for example. So you'll get like one or two decent comps. And I just think it hurts people a lot because even if they weren't going to use ChatARV at all, I still would highly recommend not using ChatGPT to pull comps.
Because there's not enough data to even suffice the value, right?
Yeah. For example, I can compare this with ChatARV in non-disclosure states and people manually comping that don't have MLS access. If you're pulling 100 comps, let's say you're just looking at a list of 100 properties in Texas, for example, with ChatARV's current, structure, maybe 20 properties, their sale price will be hidden, which means that, out of our top six, if four of those 20 would have been a part of our top six, we would be inaccurate because we wouldn't include those comps. And ChatGPT isn't including 10 plus properties you would have found yourself if you just opened Zillow or you just opened PropStream. So you're missing crucial data regardless of the fact that the state you're doing the deal in is non-disclosure, I just think you need the most quality data for you to have the most accurate numbers. And ChatGPT being free is not really an excuse.
I think that's an amazing insight. A lot of people, they have this misconception, you know what, why go and buy a subscription for another product? Let me just build this thing either on GPT. And I've seen a lot of people try building some similar stuff on Claude too. And I don't think it's anywhere close to accurate to what ChatARV is offering right now.
Yeah, I watched this guy. He's making videos talking about how he went to ChatGPT, said, ChatGPT, generate me an MVP of a tool that I could prompt it with an address and it gives me comps, and do this with Lovable, connect it to Supabase, and generate me an MVP in 30 seconds. Like that is not gonna work.
No, obviously not. So, I mean, I think that's an amazing insight, Aiden. We talked a lot about the real estate side and a lot of the shortcomings of what investors face, especially when it comes to comping and also a little bit on the deal side. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the founder side. I know you being the CEO and co-founder. Let's talk about building ChatARV. What would you say was the hardest part about building your company? Like you can talk about the tech, the data accuracy. I think data accuracy is something which I really want to know more about it. And then also the user expectations.
Yeah, so I'd say the hardest part was tech related. The videos they really blew themselves up. We haven't really spent a lot of money on ads, so it just further validates that the concept in general is useful. It's just someone needed to make it, and now someone has made it, being us. And there's a lot of copies where the tech is really the only differentiating factor. And for us, luckily we've had a lot of data and properties to train our AI model on. And I think I know you didn't ask for a common misconception, but one that there is on our actual platform in general is that the underwriting process is majority AI. Most of it is an algorithm, and this is something that we ended up coming up with after seeing how AI would mess up with filters and fluctuating weightings on us saying that beds are more important than baths, for example, or building type is more important than whether or not it has a basement. That's just a random example. But we decided that we were going to make filters. Going 12 months in the past for the years that we're looking within these properties sale date, the range in which we're looking within beds and baths, square footage, etc. We're going to start extremely broad and then just manually, like with different numbers, filter these in very, very quickly. And with that, we'll go from 100 to around 20 properties. And out of these 20, there'll be, 3 2s, they'll be within, 15% of the square footage of your subject, and all that's left is just using AI to analyze the images and making sure it's comparing apples to apples. So these comps, if they have 2 stories and the subject is 1 story, those ones are rolled out. It goes from 20 to maybe 15 comps, and then just continuously doing that. And that's how we've managed to be as accurate as we can possibly be. And we're not done yet. So I think that is something that has worked very well for us, just mitigating the amount of AI usage for the comps.
Nice. And what about like obviously when you first built ChatAI, right? Like was it really hard for you to convince people to try something new, or did they already have something which I mean I'm pretty sure you since you had like an operation of building a previous website and then you were able to get 60,000 users immediately, right? So do you have like a similar game plan, especially when it came into getting users on board?
Yeah, so I did the exact same thing I did to originally get users for the Pickup Soccer website, because that was organic. So with ChatARV, I just went in every single wholesaler Facebook group and I said, hey, my name's Aden. I'm working on this tool to help run comps faster. If you guys would like to try, just click this link or DM. I don't even think we were charging anyone. We just wanted to get usage and see if it would be worth it. I called
Mhm.
every wholesaler that I knew, so I think I made around 100 phone calls. And I think by the time we were done with that, and 2 Reddit posts that each got over 1,000 views, some people saying it would never work, and some people that were very supportive as well that we still talk to every single day, they all signed up. So there was like a wait list of 100 people, and that really helped because I've fell victim in the past of building things that people don't need. So I really wanted to make sure that this would be useful before I went ahead and built it. And that ended up working very well for us.
Amazing. And I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of operators using ChatAI in really creative ways, right? Like from instant underwriting to like even sending comms reports to sellers. Is there any particular use case which really surprised you in, or let's say made you think, you know what, hey, that's actually pretty brilliant? Is there any particular use case which you've seen which you're not actually thought of at that time?
I do know some people have some pretty cool automations where they connect the ARV from Chat ARV to their CRMs that they already have existing through our API. And I think some people have some pretty creative structures. I think there are some people that are trying to work on this with closure control as well. So we just need to get the ball rolling on that. But off the top of my mind, thinking of like a very extravagant use case is hard because our flow is really simple.
Mhm.
Address, comps, report, offer. I guess anyone who makes creative offers with ChatARV surprises me because we're able to see which features are used, which buttons are pressed, and yeah, the people that are making those creative financing offers, sending those reports to sellers, that's always awesome to see.
Amazing. Now that since we're almost towards the end, I would like your opinions as the CEO of a fast-growing AI company in the real estate space. Where do you see AI heading in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, let's say in your company, will comping be fully automated? Will underwriting be instant? Will investors run leaner teams? Can you share your thoughts on that?
I really don't think I have the foresight to comment on this just because of the fact that it changes so quickly. Last year, ChatARV did not exist. No one knew that it could even be a thing. Next year, wholesaling could be banned. Anything could happen. I really don't know, but I do know that more people, I feel like our space for wholesalers and investors is underserved. I don't think there's enough people building things, and as there are a lot of younger people that are entrepreneurial minded, and they see people like the closure control guys, you guys working on the cool software, us working on cool software. I think it could inspire people to create more tools, hopefully, that are different, that solve different problems. Competition isn't bad, but it's annoying. So, yeah, I just think there will be more tools that exist, but I'm not sure if everything will be fully automated because I think our industry does require some level of human input.
No, definitely. No, you're right on the ball on that one. And before we end this show, I know behind every product, the team, and the tech, there's always a human pushing the vision, right? So in ChatAI's case, that's you. So, Aiden, from your perspective, like what exactly keeps you going, or what motivates you to build for this industry every single day?
I think the fact that we've created a very valuable product that people rely on every day has just given me the ability to not be able to sit around and do nothing because people are depending on me to act on the software in order for them to continue with their business. I think there's a saying somewhere that I read where you have a good product whenever people get upset when they can't use it for whatever reason. Or I think the real term is they get upset when you take it away. But we wouldn't do that. But lately there have been a lot of outages with like very popular databases like Cloudflare and Supabase and these kind of sources. And people
Yeah.
have been emailing us like, I wake up 6 a.m. There are people who are waking up much earlier than me because I have 10 texts that say, hey, these comps aren't working. Is ChatARV not working in Florida? Like everyone's freaking out. And I think that makes me really happy. And I just want to keep building this, keep making it more valuable because if we can help people make, 10 times more offers, they'll make a lot more money, which means that we could make more money.
Definitely. I think it's amazing to see a lot of people relying on something which you have built, and it's also making so much difference in their life, right, on a day-to-day basis. So, Aiden, thank you so much for being a part of the Real Talk with Closer Control. Any final words before we end this call?
I think everybody should check out Closer Control. They're doing amazing things. And yeah, if anyone made it to this point, thanks for watching.
Yes. So for everyone listening, if you want to comp faster, underwrite smarter, or even make cleaner decisions, go check out ChatARV. It's quickly becoming the go-to tool for serious operators. And on top of that, Closer Control and ChatARV has recently become partners. So obviously, it is been integrated into the Closer Control system as well. So any wholesaler investor who gets on the Closer Control system, they have a option to even go for the ChatARV's tool as well. So thank you so much, Aiden, for being part of the show. That really wraps up this week's Real Talk, another conversation with a real operator building real tools for investors. So tune in next week. We'll be back with another founder deep in the trenches in the real estate world. Till then, see you and take care.